Okay, everyone, I have 11:01, so in the essence of getting the most time out of today, let's go ahead and get started. Once again, I'll just do a quick announcement, and then we'll get started in earnest. My name is Shane Hamstra, and I'm with ART International. I'll be your webinar support technician for today. If you need any help from me, technical-wise, please go ahead and use the chat feature on the left-hand side. I'll be monitoring that for questions for our presenters today, and also any technical needs. In the middle of your screen is where you'll see today's content move forward, and as you can see now, Michael is sharing his video, so we'll have our presenters with their video up on the top of your screen. So, without further ado, I'll hand it over to Michael Burt-Crane to kick us off.
Thank you very much. So we'll go ahead and jump in. I've just got some opening remarks, but I'm excited to get to our speakers today because that's really what it's all about. I want to give you guys a chance for some discussion and questions and answers. So for those who don't know me, my name is Michael. I'm the Education and Workforce Development Lead at the Department of Defense Manufacturing Technology Program Office. We work with a number of different programs, but primarily with the Manufacturing Innovation Institutes. So if you're not familiar with the institutes, here's a map showing some of the presence across the country. These are the headquarters. The institutes are actually working, most of them working across several states, some across many of the states. So this gives some sense of where the institutes are located. But what we're here to talk about today is some of the work that we're doing in education and in career and technical education specifically. So we've really seen, again, the institutes and partners working with new set of learning tools, venues, technologies, pedagogies, partners, and we're really seeking to double down on that and expand it and utilize this to apply to career and technical education. And I'm remiss, I forgot to introduce our partner on this, Greg Henschel from the Department of Education, Office of Career and Technical Education. We've been working with Greg and Oxide for a little while now, and really happy to be continuing this going forward, and we'll hear from Greg a little bit more later on. So coming back to the slides here, really excited to be bringing in some guest speakers to bring some new tools that the institutes and partners and new partners can utilize in their education programs going forward. So in partnership with the Department of Education and National Science Foundation, we've been working with the institutes to really drive towards a model of regional interventions. It's really an ecosystem development model with career and technical education at the center of that. And the tools that we need to develop the learning pathways to meet the labor market demand are essential to this, and that's really what this this series is about. So at the local level, as anywhere, everybody has an agenda, and fortunately in the education space, usually we can get past this, but going into any intervention, we're always going to have this type of situation, especially when we're talking about workforce and education, which is such a common problem to everybody. It's easy to sort of pass the buck here, but our efforts are really focused on collaboration and a shared responsibility here, a really truly collaborative approach with a diverse set of stakeholders, which offers all its own challenges, but we're very encouraged by our progress so far with this approach, and really think it's the way to affect real change. So a core principle of this approach is to really understand the data, understand the labor market need, we've got really fast-changing competency needs in the manufacturing space. So over the summer, we're embarking on an effort to gather data and analyze that in the individual regions that institutes are working in. We're going to be continuing this going forward, but our first big push is this summer to really understand where those gaps are and use this to guide our efforts to develop new educational pathways that are going to be valuable to the employers, to the manufacturing industry, to the educators, as well as the students and incumbent workers, hopefully. As I said, the skills needs are really changing fast, and this is where I think the institutes offer a key advantage, which is that in addition to education and workforce development, you guys are developing and commercializing these technologies and have great foresight. So in concert with our labor market data and analysis specialists, I think we can really offer foresight into what those skills needs are now, rather than a backward-looking approach as we traditionally see. Really understand what those needs are now and what they're going to look like going into the future, so that we can inform our interventions appropriately with real data and insight. So I think there are a few important points on this last slide here before we turn to our first presenter. So, and again, for the Institute, I think we've talked about these things several times, but we're just going to keep beating that drum. But we're really looking to model a CTE reform here. And these are some of the really essential elements. I'm not going to read through all of them, but I'll call out a couple. Having a more flexible system that is demand-driven, where we've got some programs that have a narrower bundle of skills that are designed based on the needs of industry in that region. And again, more compressed programs as well as on-ramps and off-ramps, so that, again, in a rapidly changing skills needs environment, students can not only enter a program that will have real value and a rapid sort of return on their own investment of time and money, but also be able to do that again in the future and do a continuous reskilling, upskilling, learning. So these are the tenets that we're moving forward with, and as I said, it's really going to be made possible by adopting some really innovative practices that we see out there. And this is why I'm so excited to be kicking off this series. We've got a whole host of fantastic presenters, and our first two are really timely. We try to make sure all of them are relevant, but it's, I think, impressive how well Danny Horgan and the CoLabL organization that he founded and is the CEO of, how well positioned they are to meet a real dire need. Their mission of strengthening student networks and skills and career pathways is just directly in line with our interests here, and doing that all in an employer need driven fashion, but the focus on developing virtual internships is just absolutely essential right now. We across the institutes really understand the value of work-based learning and the connections that are created during internships, and the value to the companies and to the students who engage in those. And with the COVID-19 crisis, really thrown a wrench in that. So really looking forward to hearing from Dan and how you guys are helping to address that problem, and hopefully we can work together to integrate these approaches in our problems going forward. So without further ado, I'll turn it over to Dan.
Awesome. Thanks, Michael. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, you sound good.
Awesome. All right, cool. So awesome. So as Michael mentioned, everyone has an agenda. My agenda for you today in like the 20, 30 minutes that we have together is really to make the business case for virtual internship programming and really thinking outside of the box in terms of how we're pivoting, both in terms of community-based programming as well as employers to really meet the needs of students in building their networks, helping them to develop the skills that are most critical for their success in the workplace, as well as meet the needs that employers have today. So up on the screen right now, you see my contact information, which I certainly encourage and welcome anyone to reach out to me after today's conversation. I certainly am happy to dive deeper into any part of the conversation that you want to. So before we dive into the core content, I want to kick us off with a little bit of an interactive question. So in the chat box, which again is on the lower right or left side of your screen, if you could do me a favor and just think about some brands that resonate with you the most. So think about brands that when you think of things that you value, things that you consume, services that you enjoy, what brands out there are ones that really resonate with you, that really connect with you? And go ahead and in the chat box, go ahead and start typing in some of those brands. I see Greg typed in Tesla. Thanks, Greg, for kicking us off. I got Toyota, which we're going to hear from in a little bit, which is awesome. We got Ben & Jerry's, Coke, Amazon, Apple. What are some of the other brands that stick out to you, that really resonate, come to mind pretty easily? We got Lyft, we got Comcast, Tiffannie, REI, Honest Company, JP Morgan, NASA, Nike, Trader Joe's. Amazing. Okay, so the next question is, in the chat box, why do those brands resonate with you the most? So why, when I ask that question, out of all the thousands and thousands of brands that are out in the world today, why did those brands come to mind for you? Why did you prioritize them? Just like short little phrase in the chat box, let me know why it is that you selected or typed in that particular brand. All right, cool. We got Linda typing in quality of the product, the values aligned with you, consistent service, the quality, the integrity, the innovation, true to the word, so service at Toyota lives up to the quality, so what they say matches what they do, it delivers on its promise, dedication to the environment, so causes that we care about, our commitment to community, the overall quality, being a sector leader, the interaction with that particular brand. Awesome. All right, cool. So I'm going to keep us moving. Thank you so much. So the point there is this. Every brand works really hard at creating an experience with its consumers, both its existing consumer base and those consumers that are trying to target, to bring on board, right? All of those brands are thinking about the way they make consumers think, feel, or take action. Just like all of us as individuals outside of our organizations, our personal brand, it makes people think, feel, or do something in response to their interaction with us. When we think about the work here, right, in preparing students for future careers, we have to create or design experiences that are about building a relationship, not a transaction, right? So if REI or Nike or Apple or Tesla, if they created a brand that was very transactional in scope, it wouldn't have longevity, right? It wouldn't create a loyal customer base. It wouldn't create brand ambassadors, people going out and talking about the company's mission, the company's values, the delivery of those values in real life, right, to the value that you're getting as a consumer. So in our work together, thinking about how we design experiences to really align to the relationship is really, really critical. So with that being said, when the world changes, our experiences have to change as well in order to maintain or sustain the relationship with our future talent pipelines, in addition to the talent that's already on board within our organizations. Because the brand that those talent feel is what creates great brand ambassadors for the future and for the present. So at CoLabL, our mission, just to give you some context, so I started my career at 18 starting a nonprofit organization that was part of America's Promise, founded by retired General Colin Powell. I started the very first youth-led community of promise back in 1998 in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, with our mission being to mobilize young people to be at the table in designing and running programs that impacted young people. So we engaged college students, high school students to run initiatives for peers or near peers. I went on from there to work in corporate social responsibility, managing our corporate giving and employee engagement at Capital One across the United States, and understood from day one the importance of going out and reaching our branches and talking to those that are on the front lines working with our customers, to those that are in the front line of our customer base out in the community doing digital banking. If I understood their needs and worked backwards, we could create strategies to make community impact much stronger and much more sustainable in the long term. At CoLabL, we do that in these three pillars. So career connections are one-time career mentoring opportunities bringing employers and young people together for career exploration and network building. Talent Accelerator is applying project-based learning so that as students start to hone in on the careers that they're most interested in, they take on project-based learning assignments to further explore that career, develop the skills that are most essential for that career path, and build a more specific network in line with those career goals and aspirations. Breakthrough mentoring is when that employee gets hired, how do we continue to expand their network within the employer situation so that they can continue to access opportunities and continue to grow. So I want to highlight that because at the core, relationships is what holds it all together, right? And the importance of meeting people where they are and then journeying along with them is going to be really important as we think about virtual internship programs and creating more diverse and more sustainable talent pipelines. I never like to speak in hypotheticals. I want to give you a really specific case study. For the last several years, I've had the opportunity to work with the Genentech team, which is located out in the South San Francisco area. So Genentech has a program called Future Lab. Future Lab is a K-12 career exploration, STEM skill building, mentorship initiative. And I want to use this as a backdrop for, again, making the case for how we pivot and how we think differently about creating those more diverse talent pipelines. So here's the program in action. Highlight this. It is a long-term view. It is not about individual transactions. It's about creating a long-term relationship with groups of students K through 12 in the South San Francisco Unified School District. Gene Academy is the first stage of their program, which works with their elementary school students who come to the Genentech campus, their headquarters, again in South San Francisco, to do science experiments and to engage in tutoring and learning assignments in small groups with Genentech employee volunteers in partnership with a handful of students. They get lab coats with their name on it. They get professional photos with their volunteers in the labs at the headquarters. The purpose of Gene Academy is to create a spark of interest, a spark of excitement in what STEM careers and what a STEM field is all about for those elementary school students. The Helix Cup is the middle school program. So after you have that spark, the Helix Cup program serves middle school students grades 6 through 8 in an amped up science competition that really starts at the school level and translates all the way to a culminating event, again, back at the Genentech headquarters, with all the C-suite leaders and employee volunteers cheering these teams of students along as they compete in this amped up science competition. Now it's about not just sparking an interest, it's about beginning to develop the skills, beginning to explore more closely what career pathways might exist that you would be interested in pursuing. Science Garage is the third stage of the program for high school students. It is essentially a professional lab that you would see at Genentech's headquarters at the high school for the South San Francisco Unified School District. Wrapped around these programs are resources for classroom supplies, scholarships for teachers to access professional development right alongside employees from Genentech, investments in research to take the work that's happening in South San Francisco Unified District and translating it across the country and around the world. How does group-based mentoring work? Their evaluations are shared more broadly. How do you practice resilience? They understood that honing in on resilience for the students that they were supporting was most critical. So they developed research and put out materials for teachers, for community programs all around the country, including employers, on how to build and develop resilience with your employees and with your future talent. So how do you take this sort of microcosm of a K-12 program and then scale it out with the resources and the learnings that you have coming out of the program. Again, relationships being pivotal to the process. So I want to share with you, just coming off of that example, the change cycle. So if you want to create experiences or relationships with or for youth, with your future talent, we've got to think about it in terms of what you see here in the change cycle. Young people don't know what they don't know. So how are we building awareness with them in a way that's engaging, in a way that's driving them to be innovative, creative, to think outside the box, and challenging us to step away from status quo and reimagine our own policies, procedures, and programs to engage and prepare that future talent. And in so doing, you build the fourth part of the wheel, which is the relationship. The stickiness of that relationship is the continual cycle of continually learning, continually engaging, expanding the table, and making sure that there's seats there for young people to participate in sharing their point of view, in brainstorming, and ultimately in decision-making around programs or initiatives that are going to immediately impact them. So really being creative with how we navigate our way around that particular cycle is really important. Also important is moving participants, students in our programs, to co-creators, to leaders. So if you think about the continuum of a voice, are they just showing up for the after-school program or for the career exploration initiative or the workforce development program or internship? Are they co-creating, helping you to shape those experiences, and are they helping you lead? So thinking about how you're engaging young people along that continuum is going to set you up for success when you have to pivot from in-person types of programs like traditional internships or apprenticeships to more virtual-based programming as a response to things like COVID-19. So I'm going to use our Talent Accelerator model as a backdrop for the 4 key pillars that I think are essential for a virtual internship experience or a virtual project-based learning experience that you could consider in engaging future talent. I want to acknowledge right up front that our work is part of a much bigger ecosystem. There are a lot of initiatives out there trying to engage youth in this way, and what we're trying to do is build the bridge between employers, community programs, and schools. So our model is rooted in 4 key elements. So project-based learning, rooted in what employers are looking for in terms of the skills and the experience of future talent. How do we engage students in taking on projects that engage them in that real work, not hypothetical work, but the real work of being able to do that? An example would be Apple runs an engineering technology camp for high school students, engaging right alongside their engineers at Apple headquarters in Cupertino. And the engineers are coaching the students in real projects over the course of 4 weeks that have a final deliverable, have a final presentation. And again, the importance of being able to focus on something real, seeing applied learning is most critical for that young person in terms of building, again, that relationship with a future employer or a future industry. Career exploration goes to the point of we may only see or know what we have right around us in our current family, our current network in our community, or what school has shared with us, or a community after-school program. So career exploration helps us to think about what are all the diverse career pathways that are available to me, and what are the sort of the laddering of those opportunities. So what would be possible for me at the very first stage of my career versus 3 steps down versus 5, 10 steps down the road, so that I can start to see the long trajectory of where my career could go, and that number one, I've got options for me to consider along that journey, right? I'm not stuck on a certain path, but I can navigate my career journey by looking at all those different career exploration options. The third is network expansion, just acknowledging that a lot of young people don't have access to a lot of professionals in a lot of different industries, so they just are familiar with the things that are closest to them, right? The family members or the friends, or coaches, teachers, what they expose those young people to. So the social capital that you can help wrap around these young people so that they're getting the career insights, the career experiences, they're understanding the tips and suggestions for navigating the path to employment, and then once employed, how do you continue to grow and expand your network to access even more opportunities, to continue to take initiative. And then lastly is skill development. So really thinking about how are we developing the skills that are in high demand among our employers? And the thing I want to highlight here is I'm doing some work with NPower, And what we've highlighted so much in our work is that it's important for young people to have the technical knowledge, skills, and experiences just as much as it's important for them to have the softer skills experiences that are most critical, right? So in our Talent Accelerator, and I would encourage others to consider this, how are you providing ample opportunity to build confidence and practice in communication, being able to write effectively in addition to present effectively? How are you developing the skill around adaptability or managing change, navigating uncertainty, being okay with that ambiguous gray space? How are you helping practice the emotional intelligence, right? The interpersonal skills that are going to be critical for that individual to be successful when working in teams or having to navigate across functions or even across partnerships outside of your employer, right? So those are just some examples of how you layer those things in to your model. But these 4 core pillars are what I believe when you think about a virtual internship experience, they can absolutely be translated virtually. And it creates a much more solid experience that sets that young person as well as a future employer up for success. So I want to also be realistic. I get that one of the things that we all on this call have to do is we have to sell up, down, and across. Daniel Pink, several years ago, wrote a great book called To Sell is Human. When we think about selling the idea of a virtual internship program, or selling the idea of engaging young people more in our decision-making and strategy planning processes, it's important for us to remember these 3 ABCs. Attunement, so how are we tapping into the stakeholder that we are trying to influence? How do we understand their point of view? How do we understand what they are motivated by, what they get stressed out from, what is their particular set of goals? The buoyancy is the ability to bounce back from the no. I read this great quote once that said, take every no or rejection you get as an invitation to learn. So instead of being defeated by it, think about how you can leverage that no to amp up your sense of curiosity and ask more focused questions to understand the reasoning behind that no. Virtual internships, I can tell you, as I've worked with lots of employers across a lot of different industries, the very first point is, oh, we don't have the capacity, we don't have the time, we don't have the resources. Tell me more about what you do have, and let me come back to you with a game plan that's going to put those things in play and give you the best outcome, the best deliverable possible, keeping in mind the student at the core, at the bullseye of our model. The last one is clarity. You have to always stay focused when you're making these sort of influence cases, staying focused on the outcome. And here, if you want to create a more diverse, a more sustainable, a scalable talent pipeline for the industry, how do we maintain clear focus on what young people think right now today, meet them where they are, and then journey alongside of them moving forward? One last slide here just to wrap up, and then I'm going to open it up. I know we've got some Q&A that we want to facilitate. So here's the thing. I often work with organizations, and when we talk about youth engagement and building out diverse talent pipelines, I often hear things like, we don't know how to reach them. We don't know what motivates them. We don't know what they need or what they want. And I always just come back with a simple question that says, have you asked them, right? Have you raised your awareness by engaging them in the process of being curious of where they are right now, right? What do they think of the industry? What do they think of the brand? What is it, going back full circle to where I started, what do you want people to think, feel, or do in response to engaging with you, either as an association, as an institute, as a regional initiative? What do you want people to think, feel, and do, particularly young people that you're trying to recruit in and engage, building that relationship? So what I say is understanding your customer is engaging your customer. So expanding that table, adding some more seats to it, so that young people can sit alongside of you and share their perspectives, what they're hearing from their peers, and help co-create the path forward that they themselves are going to be a part of, right? The second thing I would just say is always think about, in terms of relationships over transactions, how you're adding value to those young people that are, again, at the core of maybe a target audience you're trying to reach. We oftentimes think about what are our program goals, what are our objectives of our institute, our regional initiatives, but we're not taking a step back or zooming out and saying to ourselves, what is the value that a young person who doesn't maybe know anything about or not that much about our industry or our opportunities, what is it that that young person is looking for in terms of value add? And then how can we align our initiatives, our relationship building efforts to being able to deliver on that value? And again, meeting them where they are and journeying forward together. That's what we're doing in terms of virtual internship program. We've got over 400 young people across the country that are engaging with employers across multiple sectors. And I really, truly believe that instead of hitting pause right now, we can amp up our efforts and build stronger senses of community, both regionally, but also on a global scale too. And so with that, I'm going to pause. I know I get super passionate, so I keep going. So I'm going to pause. I know we want to get some questions in, so I will see if there are any questions that folks want to ask. Greg, I can't hear you, so I'm not sure. I think while we're waiting, too, we can also, if there's, oh, there you go. Perfect.
Is it better? Okay. So thank you for your presentation. I think it was pretty information dense. I mean, we've got a number of questions here and more than I think we have time for. So let me just jump into it quickly. You'll see in the chat window, Sudarshan Rachuri mentions, I'm involved with the www.adventuresinscience.org for the past 15 years, and I am one of the site managers. I'm interested in Future Lab. How does Sudarshan learn more about Future Lab and get involved?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, I'm happy to connect you with the Future Lab team and share more information about that program. I'll go ahead and put I think everyone's going to get these slides, which will have my contact information, but I'll also put my email in the chat box so everybody has that as well.
Great. Yeah, everyone will get the slides and all the contact information for everyone here. I had a question. You know, you talk about mentoring, including virtual mentoring. And since we know that these people can be important and pivotal for the futures of young people, how do you train people? How do you help people become good mentors? Do you train them? How do you train them?
Yeah, so we always train them. So if they're limited engagements, so more informal mentoring, we have tip sheets and some short-term training that we do with mentors in advance. If they're participating in a longer-term program, we focus a lot on, I would say, more robust training with them. It focuses on increasing your self-awareness. I always say that your self-awareness is what drives your ability to connect with others. We focus a lot on thinking about amping up your curiosity as a mentor. So your role as a mentor is not to direct or tell someone what to do, but your role as a great mentor is to really ask more effective questions and pull out the greatness that's already within a lot of young people. They just haven't been given a chance to speak up or to even explore their own ideas. And so by having somebody who's really curious around them, that creates a great mentorship experience. Also clarity. We do a lot of work with mentors around tools they can use to help young people gain greater clarity around their interests, around how they explore some of those pathways or prioritize some of those particular areas of interest. And then lastly, I would just say we talk about the climate of possibility, which is a great quote from Sir Ken Robinson from one of his TED Talks on creativity in the education system. The climate of possibility is reminding young people that they have the ability to take on whatever option they choose for themselves, but the mentorship around them, not just one person, but a web of mentors, can really help propel them forward. And so reminding mentors of that messaging and that language and the tools, really tangible tools that they can use, is what best sets them up for success.
Great, thanks. So you're talking about virtual mentoring, and that's an interesting concept. You described a lot of experiences, and I wonder what are the limits to virtual experiences? Can everything we want to do be done through this virtual media?
It's a great question. So there's a couple of limitations. One obviously is connectivity, so just being really mindful of access to certain technology or certain connections across the country in different geographies. That can be a challenge to work through. The second is really thinking about, particularly in more technical skill building opportunities, the need for materials to be provided to be able to engage the student in doing the work. So again, I'll just highlight Apple as an example. Like Apple has provided their students with those materials to be able to complete the projects that they're engaging them in. So there's no assumption that the students already have access to these things. The same is true for the way Genentech provides the school resources through donorschoose.org to the teachers to make sure that they've got the tools they need to educate the students on the real application that they're seeing within their headquarters or seeing in their day-to-day jobs. So that would be another. And then third, I would just say in the virtual space, you have to be really intentional about connecting in these mentorship or virtual internship programs, and not just sort of starting the week off and saying, oh, here's your task or here's your set of to-dos, and circle back by the end of the week and let me know how it goes. So the intentionality around the connections beyond the task is really where the relationship building happens, and that's where you get more sustainable talent pipeline building work happening.
Great. Well, I think you can see, Dan, that in the chat window, several of our colleagues, John Yokelson, Carlos Rodriguez, have put in some questions here also about this virtual internships. John asks, can you view virtual internships as a fallback option or as a viable core option? Carlos asks, Dan, please talk about the practical steps to pivoting to virtual internships and such.
Yeah. So John, I'm going to take your question and I'm going to just share, for us at CoLabL, one of the benefits that we really see for virtual internship not being a fallback option, but actually being a stronger equalizer, is that young people across the country in any geography, any demographic can participate in these experiences. You get exposure to companies and career pathways that they may not have been exposed to right within their own hometown or community. And so second, through exposure to not just an intern manager, typically, which is the way it works in person, or a smaller group of individuals, every one of our virtual internships is supported by a team of 4 to 6 career coaches, employees from that particular company that are providing feedback and coaching. So when we think about removing some of the bias that sometimes happens in diversity hiring or diversity pipelining work, we're making sure that young people are trained up on how to get multiple people's opinion, identify the trends in that feedback, and then filter out the outliers and really make sure that they're applying the trends and focusing their efforts there versus getting caught up on what one individual may say but the others may not agree with. So I don't see it as a fallback option. I actually see it as an opportunity to expand our pipelines and our networks across the country and even around the world. To Carlos's question around practical steps to pivoting, what I would say here is great partnership work, relationship building with your key stakeholders is key. So really understanding your employer's needs, understanding their capacity and their resources, and then working to understand what youth are willing or able to give or participate in, and then piecing it together just like a puzzle, right? So how can you take those resources, capacity, and needs and start to map out a program? So each one of our program partners for our internship program, it's a different cycle, it's a different area of focus, because the students have different levels of competency, different areas of career interest, and so we really want to make sure that it's much more individualized for a team of students versus just sort of making general programming. So I would say that's the most important step in terms of pivoting. The second is, obviously post-COVID, there's an immense opportunity to balance the virtual with the in-person, more traditional-based programming, and so I hope, and I know we will, I hope that a lot of programs that are pivoting to virtual will start to sort of strike the balance between those traditional in-person experiences with the virtual complements as well. I know that's just a very surface level answer, so Carlos, I would certainly welcome the opportunity to follow up with you more on that.
Thanks, Daniel. This is about as much time as we have at the moment, although there may be an opportunity, there should be an opportunity towards the end of the program. And I'm just going to step back and bring Michael Britt-Crane back. Thank you.
Awesome.
Thank you so much, Daniel and Greg. That's really fantastic. work that you guys are doing at CoLabL, and I think you had a lot of really good lessons that we can learn, and it's sort of a brave new world with virtual engagement, and I think the core principles that you really highlighted there are just absolutely key and directly in line with what we're doing. You guys are clearly, well down this pathway, which is very encouraging. So I'm going to move on, and I'm going to introduce Joni, Harmon, Heath, who many of you know. Joni connected us with our next speaker, so I'll turn it over to Joni and let her make the introduction.
Good morning, everyone. Can you hear me okay?
You sound good.
Okay, good morning. Thank you for having us on this morning. Today, I would like to introduce our next speakers, Lisa Deck and Tiffannie Hedin. They will be presenting on the 4T Toyota model. Lisa is with IN-MaC. IN-MaC is Indiana Manufacturing Competitiveness Center, which is hosted by Purdue University in West Lafayette, Indiana. IN-MaC was developed to create a stronger, more competitive manufacturing ecosystem by mobilizing resources, expertise, and network to strengthen the relationships between workforce education, technology adoption, and manufacturing research. Lisa has really been leading this initiative across Indiana to help reform the CTE pathways and give real-life learning experiences to students using the 4T Toyota model. And with her is Tiffannie Hedin from Toyota's corporate. Tiffannie is one of the champions that has helped to implement this program and make it such a success. So we are very excited to have them both on with us today to share more about this innovative model. Thank you both, and with that, I'll turn it over.
Thank you, Joni. I appreciate that. Again, we appreciate the opportunity to be a part of today's webinar and kind of share our experience of the development of the 4T Academy. So as Joni mentioned, I won't spend a whole lot of time on just IN-MaC as a whole, but basically we are in partnership with not only Purdue University but also Ivy Tech Community College and Vincennes University, and we work across the state of Indiana basically to continue to have innovative approach and knowledge around manufacturing and STEM careers. Working with my colleague Sasha Harrell and I work, we are the education and workforce group of IN-MaC, and we work with the K-12 system, post-secondary systems, and also with industry to build out sustainable, stackable, if you will, programs in our state. Tiffannie?
Yes. And this project is specifically unique because what we've done is not only come up with something that's completely innovative and collaborative, but it's really been unheard of in our area and really in the state. We've taken 3 separate school corporations in one county, which I'm sure kind of boggles your mind already, but in a very kind of divisive and divided culture, and we've brought them together for one common goal to meet an education need. But in addition to that, we've really taken 2 other components, an employer need, a workforce need, and also a community need, and found the sweet spot within those. And I think that's really the essence of this true collaboration between Toyota and our Gibson County partners, and then also using Lisa and her expertise and her team as kind of an objective resource in this. So we've really come a long way in the past year in that regard.
Yeah, and so when our talks began, it was about April of last year, we knew that we had a common goal that we wanted to achieve. And so to be able to do that, we sit down with obviously not only the team at Toyota, but those 3 community schools, that basically we were dealing with 3 different superintendents. I mean, you got 3 truly different school corporations bringing them together. One is fairly small. The other 2 are about the same size, but they're still probably considered small as an overall, size for our Indiana schools. So it's very rural, and so when we sit down, we knew that the ultimate goal here was to be able to produce and give students an opportunity to leave high school ready to, for that next step. And so some components that we took into consideration on that was not only the educational piece, but the values, the interests, the experience, and what skills it was going to take to be able to do that. And so we used this process to kind of guide us through, the whole component of it. So the first thing we did was we looked at the access, and we did this by, we really wanted to understand the workforce development needs and what systems are already in place. What is the data telling us of where students are going after high school, and how are we going to be able basically to do a better job of keeping those students in Gibson County to work for, their organization. So we looked at regional data and local data to do that. Then we knew that the collaboration piece was going to be huge. So we said that not only did they bring IN-MaC in just to be kind of the liaison for this process, to have a neutral voice and a guiding person to help work through the process. We knew that we needed K-12, obviously, at the table, administrators, counselors, and teachers. We needed industry support and industry leadership at the table. Our post-secondary partners were pivotal in how we developed this out, and then having the community stakeholders there as well to support and help grow the process. Then we went and we developed, the development piece of this was we did some 4-hour workshops that involved skills mapping. We determined the in-demand jobs and skills needed over the next 2 to 10 years. We did a discussion with industry and educators to map out the skills needed on those students that are leaving that pathway. What were the critical academic, technical, and professional skills or employability skills that were going to be so important for students to have at the end of this program? And then we did the curriculum mapping. And we'll talk a little bit about this later in the aspect of some barriers or concerns, but bringing 3 school corporations together to build out a curriculum map, and the understanding that all 3 of those schools are, students are in a different place coming into this. So we had to look at, what are our goals for credentialing outcomes for this program, and we had to determine the key course content and the curricular resources on how do we get there. So we looked also at the intentional work-based learning and project-based learning piece of this, and how it's so important that we build in relevancy into the program so that students are actually not only getting the classroom rigor, but they're also getting the hands-on experience and project-based opportunities to work on projects. And we did all of this by also embedding in those employability or professional skills into the process. Then on the plan, as we looked at what the overall plan, we knew that we had to have, look at what we were going to purchase as far as equipment and tooling, what's going to be required, and is it up to date? I don't know if any of you see some of this, but a lot of times what we're seeing in sometimes post-secondary even is that the tools and the equipment that they're using has already been outdated as manufacturing is so quickly moving and growing and being innovative. So we wanted to make sure that we were able to blend that and make sure that we had the up-to-date tools to be successful. Also, we wanted to make sure that we had a strong marketing and communication plan. I have always said that we can build the greatest, most beautiful product out there, but if we don't market it and sell it and have a keen eye on who our target audience is for this product, then we've done it for nothing. Only our advisory counselor or the team working on this knows how good it is. So Toyota was very instrumental in putting together a marketing and communication plan. A video was established for parents and students and community, just the community as a whole, to share what that could look like. And then the last piece of the planning is obviously for the evaluation. You know, we wanted to look at student evaluation, we wanted to look at program evaluation, and also the industry side of it, evaluating what that looks like. So this next slide is really, it's work in progress. You'll see at the top that when we started to build out the curriculum plan and looking at how the state of Indiana is doing a career and technical ed revamp right now, we basically just broke it down under year 1, 2, 3, and 4. And the reason we did it this way was, again, because we have schools that aren't all teaching the same prereqs, if you will. So we knew that it was going to take us about a 3-year time frame to backfill the pipeline of what courses are going to be required to be able to be a part of this academy. Years 1 and 2, the students stay at their home school, and Toyota then, the partnership piece of it, Toyota then goes to those home schools to honor their commitment and hours with those students. Years 3 and 4, the students go to the academy, and the academy is going to be located at Princeton High School. And they are basically, we're doing a complete revamp of an area in the school that is going to be, you know, the classroom and where the equipment and everything will be in the lab. So those students will, their junior year, they'll go, you know, a half a day, and then the other half of the day, they obviously then are in their core homeroom school in their core classes. And then year 4, the same thing for the seniors. And then year 4 will look a little different because those seniors are going to be receiving an internship, a paid internship by Toyota, so that they can really get the boots on the ground experience and blend that again with the rigor and the curriculum that's inside of that. Tiffany, is there anything you'd like to add?
Yeah, I really think that the key point here is that, you know, kind of like what Daniel mentioned earlier, there is a tangible result. The students are immersed in a learning environment that is specifically tailored to this kind of skill set, packed in with essential needs for workforce in any realm, but specifically manufacturing. And those soft skills are so important, and I think many of the educators will agree that students are not getting that at home like they did a few generations ago because parents are both working, they're not as involved for, you know, a myriad of reasons. And so now the educators are kind of, they're in charge of really not only preparing students with that educational background, the general education that they need, but also soft skills that prepare them to interact with individuals, to shake hands, to learn how to be on time, and the importance of responsibility, of ownership, just those general things that we as professionals take for granted a lot of times. And that was key not only as a company to communicate our needs as an employer, but educators to also say, yes, we need to cover that and we need some help doing that. And so the students are really, they're getting so much out of this program because it's of its specific design. And they'll be very well poised to seek employment or receive employment in the manufacturing sector, which, if you don't already know, Indiana is leading that in the nation. I think we're second in the nation for that. So I can't stress enough how important it is to really not only craft the curriculum based on the education needs, based on the needs of what we're seeing in society and in employment, but then also having the students be in our space, having that paid internship, giving them some kind of accountability, but also, you know, morale boost and ownership of what they're doing, and then also producing a tangible result, which is they will be compiling like kits for our components and parts that will be then put on our vehicles. So they can essentially say they had a hand in building our awesome cars.
Absolutely. And so as Tiffannie said, I mean, the employability skills was a big piece of the conversation as we developed this program. And we took the state of Indiana has released their employability skills standard for K-12. And so we took each of those, basically those categories, we broke those down into year 1, 2, 3, and 4 of how, and we want them to, prove competency, basically. So these skills are literally going to be built into lesson plans that will be taught not only at the 4T Academy, but also at the Toyota Training Center that they'll be, actively involved in as well, and in their home school. So that is as we all know, I mean, when we walk into as IN-MaC, when we walk into an employer or industry, almost always the first thing that we hear is we really need to get a better handle on these employability skills and be able to master those. So that was intentionally built into this, and it will be measured as a competency, and students will receive a grade on that as well. The next piece of the puzzle here is what I think makes this a very special program, in that Toyota has committed to several training hours with these students. So on year 1, again, as I mentioned earlier, these would be taking place in their home school, but Toyota, and they will also be inviting, let's just say, freshmen to the Toyota plant to do some of this as well. So, you break out year 1, they're going to be looking at just the different components of what's happening underneath the roof of a manufacturing organization. And we really call this more of a experience or exposure type piece, whereas in year 2, we give them a little bit more. I mean, they will actually be given a project for a grade to be doing at their home school and looking at, what that looks like. And you'll see that we have the 5S culture, the TPS, and quality control all built into that one, so that they could start at least getting a feel for those skill sets that are so important to be successful. And then by year 3, it's the work-based learning piece of it, and students are actually going to be receiving 4,320 minutes at the on-site at Toyota, and then with the training that's listed. And by their senior year, we double that. So not only will they be receiving a paid internship during this time that they'll be receiving college credit for, but they will be having an opportunity to really start, as Tiffannie mentioned, putting their hands to the work and being a true part of what this product is going to look like in the end. So we tied it very closely with, again, relevancy and hands-on experience. So as we look at the 4T guidelines for success, we wanted to look at what are those measurable outcomes. And so the team of that came together to look at that was, we wanted to see what is it that we can measure to show that we are being successful at this. And so key components of we really wanted it to be specific and attainable and be able to be measured. Then we also have a memorandum of understanding with our entire advisory council, and that council consists of people from the school system, Toyota team members, community stakeholders, our post-secondary partners are all a part of the advisory council. That advisory council has a memorandum of understanding, a legal document that shows what our roles and responsibilities are as being a part of this 4T Academy. So I think that's a really important piece of this, is the accountability piece and making sure that we're all helping each other and staying on board. We can't just say that, hey, we did this work and we have a nice looking document, a video that shows what we're doing, now we're done. Now we want to say, what's next? And how do we grow and be innovative ourselves in this process to continue to look at how do we improve the overall progress in program so that students can leave with, you know, the most optimal education and opportunities. We developed a 5-year plan and also a sustainability plan that is going to, you know, that was very important as well, to being able to see what this is going to look like, you know, what equipment, is it the one-time cost versus what is the renewable cost to keep the program. We hired a director, which is also going to be the instructor, so that person is the, you know, kind of the lead of this academy, and they will be doing a lot of the marketing and communication piece as well. And then we also wanted to make sure that we kept the college curriculum and the credentials at the lowest cost possible. So as we continue to grow and look at how do we stack these credentials, we will continue to be, you know, very cognizant of what is it that we need to do for those students to be able to leave with a credential, and that they can take and continue their education if they choose to do so. Anything, Tiffannie, anything you want to add at this point?
Just want to stress the point that, you know, while Toyota is a key partner in this program, and certainly we are looking to fill workforce needs for our production team members, the idea behind this program is to really prepare students for careers that would not have normally gone down this path, whether it's because of awareness or just self-confidence, or, you know, mom and dad have kind of, you know, an idea in their head about what this type of work looks like for their students, specifically for females. We want to break down some barriers. We want to offer opportunities for students who are not meant for 4-year degrees, who may not go to college or seek a credential or be sufficiently employed because there's a lack of opportunity. And so this program is designed for that, to offer students on-ramps and off-ramps, to let them test the waters and see what it's like in that environment, and then make a decision for themselves with the right tools and the right education to either join the Toyota family or join the manufacturing sector in their area, and really, you know, retain that talent so that we can grow our communities. And so by building in all these key components and making this program so robust, we feel like we're really giving those students the opportunity to do that. And they could have very lucrative careers either with Toyota or with another one of our contemporaries in the industry. But the idea here is to bolster the economy, to, well, better prepare students for employment, to create well-qualified employees, to then continue down that, you know, that road of a robust economy and giving back.
Yeah, and I think another key point to just to add to that is the counseling of the students. I know, I mean, the counselors sit on the advisory council, so they're fully aware of the goals and you know what the ultimate goal basically of the student is for the program. And they are absolutely key in helping these students navigate what some of these options look like. So not only do we really look at, you know, we have a strategic engagement piece in place for specifically for females, people of color, those that are at risk and that are underprivileged, but we also want to make sure that we are looking at all students and parents and educators and making sure that they completely understand and be very actively involved in what this could look like for their students. So I think, you know, that's a really important piece of the development of this program as well.
And to help paint the picture a little better, I should have done this in the beginning, but if it gives you an idea, the largest city that's close to Princeton is Evansville, Indiana, which is the 3rd largest city in the state. Our population is just over 100,000. So if that puts anything into reference, it's pretty rural. And as you move further up north where our plant sits in Princeton, it's even less populated. And as you spread out, there's less and less. Now, there are a lot of manufacturers in Evansville. There's a lot of companies. It's a growing city. But overall, a lot of students will seek employment and opportunities elsewhere, up toward Indy and so forth, or they'll resign themselves to just, this is what it is, this is where I am. And so what we want to do is kind of open their eyes and help them think outside the box and look for opportunities that maybe they didn't even think were possible because they've never been encouraged to do that, or the opportunities just simply don't exist. And so what we've created here, we feel like is so innovative and so unlike any other program that our communities, our educators, our students have seen. We really feel like this could gain a lot of momentum and create an opportunity to just engage so many students in some of this training and career preparation and a career awareness, moreover.
Yeah. Yeah, so as I talk about, the 3 school corporations, that's how the 4T Academy actually got its name. All 3 of the high schools in Gibson County, their mascot starts with T, and so with Toyota being the lead employer on this project, that's how it received the name 4T Academy. But, when we looked at the 3 corporations, and I mentioned this earlier, but those varied levels of what people, the teachers and courses that they were able to teach and to prep students to be part of this academy. We also had, a lot of discussion on culture and territory. I mean, we had some really hard discussions that took place on where this was going to be housed. And it's, and that decision actually was not made until very late in the planning phase of this because of the deep-rooted concerns and territorial pieces of this whole program. And it was the reason the decision was made was because Princeton High School is closest to Toyota. They had a space available that could be revamped. And in our 5-year plan, Toyota plans to actually bring this academy on site at on their property. So when we look at the overall 5-year plan, our goal is to have it at Princeton High School for 2 to 3 years, and then move it to the actual Toyota location, a warehouse that it's going to be revamped. They build their Sequoia in that warehouse, which is a low volume car, and the students will actually be able to see production in place and be able to be a part of that to some degree. I know we're running really close on time, but I know some of you may have a question or a concern about the tuition transfer and also how we're funding this right now. I have to give a shout out to my friends at Toyota, which has been a pleasure to work with, in that they are, they locally basically, after this program was already built and we're getting ready to launch it, they made a huge announcement in January that they're also contributing $1 million towards this 4T Academy to sustain it and get it built out. So that was just a huge surprise. We were moving forward with this before that happened, but that gift, if you will, has just been really life-changing in the overall makeup of what this looks like. So it gives us lots of opportunities for equipment and additional things. So I know we're at time. I apologize. We'll get to the questions.
Well, thank you both so much for taking the time to come on and share your really extremely integrated and aligned model. This is involving numerous stakeholders. Just to get us kicked off with the questions, our audience here today is other education workforce directors within the institutes, and as we think about how to possibly implement programs similar to this with our communities and stakeholders, my question for you is, how did you get the school corporations to collaborate and adapt this new model to move them from concept to implementation so quickly? And how big of an influence of having Toyota have a seat at that table made that
So
accelerate more
actually, Eric Goggins, who is I think on the call, getting ready to take the question, answer questions if necessary. Eric, are you on? Do you want to answer that? He may not be unmuted, so I'll answer that. And if he comes on, just jump in. He is originally the person that reached out to Toyota and said, hey, I see some of these other great programs aligned with the CTE standards. Why can't we do something like this in Gibson County? And so he's the assistant superintendent for North Gibson School Corporation. So, you know, it was innovative thinking on his part that really catapulted the conversation into what this could look like. And so that's when Toyota reached out to me and said, you know, hey, Lisa, will you come down and talk to us about this and what this could potentially look like, and could you kind of guide us? And so it really was a perfect storm, if you will, that the educators are actually the ones that initiated the discussion, but Toyota quickly said, absolutely, what can we do and how do we go about it? I always say it's important to have strong leadership to build out programs like this, and that has certainly held true for 4T. Tiffannie, anything you'd like to add?
No, you pretty much covered. I think we were very lucky to have the interest and the passion behind the educators, because that's usually where in community partnerships, you know, you kind of have to convince them a little bit and plant the seed. And we did have to do that with the other two school corporations, but it was easier to have North Gibson kind of as a spearhead for that. So super lucky to be able to have already had that momentum to then start this partnership.
Sure. This is an exceptional program, and it's just really rare to see so many different stakeholders can come together in agreement. So you guys have done an excellent job. With that, I want to turn this back over to Greg. He's been collecting the questions, so he has maybe just a couple more for you. Thank you both.
Great. Thanks, Joni. We have a couple of, well, I have several really strong questions here. Let me start with the question, working with three schools, how important was it to have state support to do this? Was it important at all?
Well, we really, you know, we knew that the career and technical education was in the midst of Perkins 5 and the reforming what that could look like. So, you know, we really didn't involve the state until kind of the middle of the program, when we started looking at could this be a state earn and learn certified program. And so Indiana has, it's called the SEAL program, where you can certify students to be SEAL students and keep that, and that credential follows you throughout the program. But yeah, I mean, we always want to involve the state. As far as IN-MaC's concerned, speak that, you know, we want to work closely with everyone and making sure that we're aligning the work that's happening with what, you know, what the state's goal is. So yeah, we definitely took that into consideration and continued to look at you know, what it is the goal is. But I also want to make sure that I emphasize that, you know, this was really employer driven, as far as, you know, listening very intently to what Toyota's workforce needs were, what skill sets they are looking for, and being able to have, again, those deep conversations with our post-secondary partner and with the school systems to make sure that we're meeting those needs. And so it was kind of a combination.
Great, thank you. I see in the chat area, Johnny Okelson asked, how engaged were teachers at the three high schools? How was the faculty at the academy recruited?
So the teachers were, we did have two manufacturing teachers at the table. One consistently came. He taught the Advanced Manufacturing 101 and 102 for dual credit. And so, you know, he was very instrumental in the discussions when we started to build out the curriculum map of what is current, you know, what are the state standards, and making sure that we're meeting those needs as well. So they have been at the table from the get-go. And then the recruiting piece of it, we knew that we wanted a standalone director, teacher, if you will, to kind of head up the academy. And so North Gibson School Corporation supported and said, hey, we will hire this person under, in our school corporation, and that person would then still report or, be actively involved in the advisory council and letting us know what's the decisions that are being made and how that's going. So we recruited, posted the position, and we found an excellent candidate, and he accepted the position and he started in June to start building out the classroom and getting everything in place for fall.
I will also add that, we had a couple of faculty members, and I certainly don't want you to think the faculty wasn't engaged. The difference in the culture here with our school corporations is that, number one, the head count of the students. Through these 3 corporations, there's about 5,000 students, a little over. So you can imagine it's not like other larger school corporations or school districts where the superintendents are servicing 20 to 30 to 50,000 students. So they're very in touch. The superintendents are very in touch with their faculty needs, with the needs of the students. They personally know students and actually kind of help to recruit some of the students for the program. They've been embedded in these communities, some of them since they grew up as kids too. So that was a different spin on it for us. I think had it been a larger school corporation from Evansville, we would have definitely had more faculty at the table. So just want to help, again, create that picture of what the culture is like here and why we did it the way we did it.
Yeah, great point, Tiffany.
Great, thank you. So here's a question. Before making the decision to place the academy in mainstream schools, did you consider other venues? Could the academy have been at a separate learning venue?
Yeah, it was a really intense conversation around all of that of who was going to house it, if you will. And I mean, we looked at, the post-secondary partners. Again, as Tiffany said, this is a very small rural community. They do have a learning center with Ivy Tech and Vincennes has facilities in Gibson County that was a potential candidate for housing it. But when it really came down to it, we looked at the space, how much space the location had, and the available equipment and support. So that's kind of how that decision was made, but it did not come lightly. I mean, it was, it was a interesting day that we talked about all of that. Tiffany, anything with that?
Just that the space at North Gibson was available, and our goal was really to not lose any momentum. We had accomplished so much with fleshing out a tailored curriculum, with state standards, with a post-secondary credential, just, a buy-in from all 3 school corporations, excitement for students and opportunity, and taking time to either build a facility or to find something that fit. We wanted to make sure transportation wouldn't be an issue, so we wanted it close. There were all those factors in play that really helped us pull the trigger on what was available, and that was North Gibson. So definitely part of our 5-year plan is to flesh out something that's, very innovative and new age, and perhaps we'll have an opportunity to build something from the ground up and have it more central, more independent, but that was kind of like a driving force behind that, and we're very grateful to have had that opportunity given to us from North Gibson.
Okay, well, our time is pretty limited right now. Let me ask a last question until perhaps the end of the program. Carlos has asked in the chat room, you can see, how is workforce demand reduced to automation and robotics? What are the implications for motivating student interest in that workforce?
I'll be happy to field that question. Really, with us at Toyota, it's not. Our team members are just as important as the robots that we have at our plant. We have over 2,000 robots that help, do spot welds and paint our vehicles and some of those more difficult procedures and processes that are dangerous for human beings, obviously lifting the cars and things like that. But it's a true partnership and collaboration between technology and humans, and something that we call Jidoka, which is automation with a human touch. So we really there isn't a reduction for us in terms of workforce, and it's really an opportunity. More so, what we haven't built into the 4T program yet, and we're hoping to in a couple years, is that maintenance, the skilled maintenance component, which those team members are a team that works solely with our robots. They do the PLC and the programming, they maintenance and service our robots to make sure they're maintaining, they're safe for our team members, they're building in quality to our products. So there's actually, I would say, maybe an increased demand for workforce given that regard and that expertise, because our robots can do a lot, but they can't take care of themselves. And so we have the pleasure of doing that on a daily basis and telling them what to do and programming them ever so slightly to make sure that, we're building the best cars we can. So I would say that it's a great opportunity to get the students in our space and have them see that, because when they do and they understand the vast amount of employment opportunities that we offer just at Toyota in our plant, they're immediately excited and engaged and want to learn more about how they can work with robotics and how that works, whether it's a collaborative robot or the big ones that we call Godzilla that lift the whole vehicle body.
And I'll just add that when we started looking at the planning and developing out what this would look like, we from the get-go knew that we wanted to make sure that we were very rigorous and with the skill set and knowledge that a student would gain as they left the academy, and being able to have those on and off road ramps, if you will, for students to have options. If you come out of this academy and we know that this student is going to could potentially be a skilled trade maintenance technician, then we refer them to the AMT program that Toyota has established. So we're looking at that the technology from the get-go.
Okay, great. Well, thanks. Let's shift. I'd like to close out the program here by sharing a little bit about the connection between this initiative and the work at the Department of Education. The first point is obviously that whatever alternate venues are developed along the way, ultimately we want to affect mainstream colleges and schools and bring those initiatives there. And this is all under the heading of working with states and with existing institutions. Also with respect to the states, the Perkins Five Act, that's the 5th iteration of that legislation, went into effect last summer, requiring that states work closely with their partners, with stakeholders, to develop their state plan and how they spend their money. Secretary DeVos has pushed that the states really rethink career and tech ed and engage stakeholders such as, for example, the Manufacturing USA Institutes and their connected institutions to help come up with plans for spending state money under Perkins. On top of it, the President's proposed a huge increase in that program, $900 million new dollars. And of course, new money is the money that's most available for new initiatives, since old money often goes where old money has gone before. So this is another reason to think that it's an important opportunity now, and that this will be done by working with state directors. On top of that, we have a Department of Education Reimagining Workforce Preparation grant that's part of the CARES Act for creating new educational opportunities and pathways This is about rebuilding employment on the heels of the pandemic. And again, this money is flowing through these state governments. So all of that to suggest working closely with the states. So I think our time is very limited here. I had promised throughout this time to leave room at the end for some questions. I don't know that we have time to go very deep into anything, so perhaps we'll conclude for now. We're going to be doing some more programs, and we'll have a chance to speak together another time. And let me just turn it back to Michael Britt-Crane.
Thank you very much, Greg. So I'm just going to give a couple remarks here, mostly just thanking everybody for joining, and this is really the first in a series. We've got several more of these planned throughout the summer. So first, I just want to thank our speakers, our innovators, Daniel, Lisa, and Tiffannie. I know I've learned something from this, and hope beyond just what we've learned and discussed today, we can also continue to reach out and hopefully we've made some good connections here, because I think it's very clear that our efforts at the institutes at OSD Mantech Education are very well aligned with these new potential partners here. So thank you very much. I thank Greg and DOE Octi for co-sponsoring and co-hosting here, and Shane for helping keep everything moving. And finally, I want to give a real warm thank you to David Heckman and Emily DeRocco, who've done so much work behind the scenes to set this all up and get this all moving and happening smoothly. So again, we have excuse me, we have a few more of these planned. And we're really excited for those next steps. You can see our next steps here on screen, and look forward to engaging with everybody on those. I want to just give a chance for anyone else on the team if there's anything that we missed that we wanted to make sure we covered before we close out. So I think hopefully everyone here can see how well this programming is intended to integrate with our regionalism initiative, and a natural extension of our moving from programs to strategies initiative that we started earlier last year, and how all these pieces fit together. So looking forward to continuing to go forward with you guys on this, with our next couple of events with Burning Glass, with the DoD Institutes, as well as our next Learning Lab, which hopefully we'll be able to do in person, tentatively scheduled for October 19th through 20th at MXD in Chicago. Our venues for these events have all been disrupted and shifted due to COVID-19, but we're going to continue to plan going forward, and glad we're able to adopt a new format with these virtual events, and hopefully in the fall we'll be able to start hybridizing with some more in-person events alongside the virtual events. So thank you all very much. I think that wraps it up.
Thanks, Michael.
Really, I forgot to thank Joni for helping and contributing here too. Thank you, Joni. All right, I'm going to sign off now. Thanks everyone. Bye.